Hello, Steve White, Steve White 89. Well, I think we all know that the rights to Friday the 13th are a mess. They've been a mess for a while, ever since Paramount sold off Jason to United Cinemas. But they at least were managing that for a while, and we got the Jason films, and we got the Friday the 13th remake, which was supposed to have sequels but didn't happen. Then we got the game, which people did like. I've never played it. But then we had the whole battle between Victor Miller and Sean.S. Cunningham. And that stopped any future productions happening. Although Jason had already been done dirty by the studios, and not even going to get into all that. But everything was frozen, or anything people were thinking of doing, they had to let go of thinking about doing. And even the game couldn't be updated, and it was just a mess. But they did recently sort out the legalities, and something that occurred to me, that I just saw an article that made me sort of reminded of it, was that there was possibly going to be a TV series for Friday the 13th. Now, so far as the rights at the moment, basically Sean.S. Cunningham owns Jason, and adult Jason, and but he can't use him without the permission of Victor Miller, who owns Jason sort of as a whole, but more so the young Jason and Pamela Voorhees and Crystal Lake and the things all that were created for and featured in the movie. He has the rights to them, but he only has American distribution rights for those. So it's a huge mess, because although he could create a prequel film set in that Friday the 13th era, he couldn't distribute it internationally. And of course, Sean.S. Cunningham can't make a Friday the 13th film featuring Jason unless Victor Miller gives him permission. So they have to work together, basically, if we're going to see anything. Now, there's no reason why Victor Miller won't just license his elements to anyone who wants to make a film or a game or anything, because he just wants to make money out of his creation, and he can do that without actually doing anything creatively, and you can just give people permission to do stuff. As long as they're willing to pay him and he's not asking for too much, it should happen. But one of the things that came up, and this came up a while ago, and then it came up again after this, but I kind of forgot about it because I was just so busy last Friday the 13th trying to get everything done in one Friday the 13th, because we only had one Friday the 13th for the whole year. But there was a proposed series. Now, I think everyone would be familiar with Friday's Curse, or Friday the 13th, the series, and that was originally conceived to be related to Jason Voorhees, that one of the members of his family was the one who set up or ran the antique shop that had all the haunted artifacts. Now, eventually they either for rights reasons stepped away from that because they didn't want to pay anyone, or just because they were afraid of the connection of Friday the 13th to Jason. I think they thought they could get away with Friday the 13th series if it had nothing to do with Jason. But even though it had nothing to do with Jason, and they sort of sacrificed that connection and sort of ruined it for the fans, they still had the Friday the 13th name, and they still got a lot of the harassment that followed the Friday the 13th series with the APA or whatever they are, and all the groups who had a problem with the Friday the 13th and violence and all that, and horror in the 80s. So we got this series that really technically had nothing to do with Jason, but I always felt that it did still. I felt like, well, even if they didn't use the name and never mentioned Jason, the antique store was still owned by someone or created by someone in Jason's family, and Crystal Lake was in that area, and that area was somehow cursed in relation to the store and all that. So I still feel like it's part of Friday the 13th, even though a lot of people don't like it. I do. But the idea was, with this new series, was they were going to create something on par with Twin Peaks or Bates Motel, which are the two things they keep throwing up in comparison. And the series was going to be about Pamela Voorhees raising Jason as a child and Crystal Lake, and basically getting them to Crystal Lake and to the events of the movie, which they could remake or cover or at least lead up to. And I really liked the idea of that. They originally, I think they were going with the CW with that, but then unfortunately, well, either way, they went with Riverdale instead. So it nearly happened, but it didn't. But now it could, because this is something Victor could do, because, he could focus it all as a prequel, and it could all be based around Crystal Lake, and they could basically just use Jason in the peripherals and just as a name, but because he really wouldn't be featured in the series. Even the sort of more modern series, I think they were planning, that wasn't necessarily a prequel, that was just based on Crystal Lake being like a haunted, cursed town, and Crystal Lake being cursed itself. Jason would sort of just be mentioned and known, but he probably would only appear at the end of the season or at the end of the series or something, and it wasn't about him. So the idea of this supernatural series, which is based on Crystal Lake as this haunted sort of town, I really love the idea of that, and it looks like that's more likely to happen now than before, because it's a good option for Victor to actually do rights-wise and everything, because they could have it on an American streaming service. It doesn't have to be distributed internationally, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I'm hoping it happens, and this article that I just read just reminded me of that, and the fact they even mentioned it when the lawyer was talking about what options they have with the rights made me feel really optimistic. So I just wanted to mention that, talk about that for a minute. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Would you like to see the series? I would. I think it'll be fun.